Classic Game Shrine, everyone. I'm sorry for the lack of videos lately. I promise I will have a video addressing that soon. But for now, I'd like to talk about the games I'd like to review. And those games are Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu. I purchased the Let's Go Pikachu bundle with the Pokeball Plus from PokemonCenter.com, and it came with this adorable little fluffy Pikachu. You got an Eevee one if you ordered the Eevee bundle, like my friend did. But let's continue. These two games, I was initially very hesitant to buy. There were so many rumors going around and so few factual details about the game. I thought it was going to be a bastardization of Pokemon Yellow with way too many Pokemon Go mechanics mixed in. So, were these games what I feared, or did they surprise me? Let's knock this off the table and let's discuss. Since I own and play both games, I'll simply be referring to these games as Pokemon Let's Go, unless the information pertains to a specific version. These games are a remake/remaster of Pokemon Yellow, but with some new features and some minor plot changes. In these games, you go back to Kanto, but instead of Red and Blue as the protagonist and rival, you play as the new protagonist with a friendly and goofy rival. Unlike the original, you also have the option to play as a female protagonist. There's some debate to the canon names of the protagonist and rival in this game, but what I've been able to find is that the suggested name for the female is Elaine, and the male is Trace or Chase. I never played with canon names, so this didn't really affect my playthrough. One of the things I loved about these games were all of the subtle nods to the original Pokemon games. Early on in the game, Professor Oak makes a joke of the whole "what was my grandson's name again?" that we've all come to know and laugh at as adults. Other nods to the past include the Mew truck sitting in Vermilion City, the Gengar and Nidorino poster in your player's room, referencing to the intro to Red and Blue, and also next to that, you'll find a calendar with the original Monster Overworld icon. Also, if you go downstairs in your house, you'll find an oddish-shaped planter, as well as so much more. You still explore Kanto to collect the 8 gym badges in order to take on the Elite Four. On your way, you still encounter Team Rocket, Jessie, James, and Meowth, but this time it all takes place in a beautiful 3D Kanto. Also in Pokemon Yellow, your starter follows you, but unlike the original, you can also interact with your partner Pokemon and play with them, like in Pokemon Ami in Pokemon X and Y. You can even feed your partner berries to make them happy, and dress them up to match you, or just to look adorable in one of the outfits you can buy. The game contains all original 151 Pokemon, all Alolan forms, and 15 Mega Evolutions, as well as 2 new Pokemon called Meltan and Melmetal. If you manage to collect all 151 Pokemon and go to the hotel in Celadon City, you'll get a diploma for catching them all. Later on in the game, certain Pokemon like Charizard, Arcanine, and many more can be ridden to give you access to some areas you wouldn't otherwise be able to get to without them. For instance, Charizard and other large flying Pokemon will allow you to ride their backs so you can fly above the towns and cities and avoid some of the obstacles. I find this most effective when traveling over water. That's not to say that there aren't aerial battles. The higher evolution allows you to find some rare and fully evolved Pokemon like Dragonite. This is a mechanic brought over from Sun and Moon, but fully polished here where you can use your own Pokemon. One main difference, and probably the most crucial difference between Pokemon Let's Go and Pokemon Yellow, is your ability to choose a starter other than Pikachu. It's important to note that the game you choose dictates what starter you get. If you purchase Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, you have to get Eevee as your starter. Fear not though, Pikachu and Eevee can be caught in the wild fairly early on in the game. Speaking of catching Pokemon, that's another difference you'll find. Unlike any Pokemon game of the past, you no longer battle wild Pokemon, except for a couple legendaries. Instead, you catch them Pokemon Go style and use your Joy-Con or Pokeball Plus peripheral to pretend to throw the ball, if you're in docked mode. If you're playing in handheld mode, you can still use the previous method, but you can also use motion controls to target the Pokemon, and then press A to throw the ball. To make Pokemon easier to catch, you can feed them berries like Nanab berries, which makes a Pokemon's movement less erratic, a Raspberry, which makes them simply easier to catch, or the Pineapple Berry, which makes them likely to drop items like berries and candies when caught. You're probably wondering what happened to the Safari Zone. In Pokemon Let's Go, they now have what's called the Go Park in place of what used to be the Safari Zone. This is where the biggest link to Pokemon Go comes in. Similar to the traditional Safari Zone, you go in and you go on a catching free-for-all, but this time the park is stocked with your own Pokemon that you caught in Pokemon Go, and there's no step limits. You're able to transfer up to 50 Pokemon at a time to Go Parks where you'll be able to go and catch these Pokemon. If you have a certain amount of the same Pokemon in a Go Park, you can play a little mini game where you try to get as many of the Pokemon as you can to the goal as quickly as you can. While you try to make it to the goal, random Pokemon will attack and scatter your group up. While we're on the topic of new and different things in the Pokemon Let's Go games, you'll have to notice that there's no more Pokemon Center PCs. You will now find your ability to store and move your Pokemon around via your bag and the Pokemon box. This now allows you to change your party up on the fly. This is a mechanic I feel a lot of us have been waiting for. One new mechanic that I absolutely love is the ability to see wild Pokemons in caves, waters, and tall grass. You will seldom need repels because in most cases, you can just run away or simply avoid the wild Pokemon you see. With this mechanic, you are able to find rare and shiny Pokemon much easier. If you battle the same Pokemon over and over, you create what's called a catch combo that increases your experience from catching and your shiny encounter rate for that particular Pokemon, or gives you the ability for a rare Pokemon to show up. Catching Pokemon is a huge way to gain EXP for your team. No longer will a poor Pokemon have to suffer to be an HM slave. Your starter learns the moves that were once HMs, which are now called secret techniques. These can be accessed from the main menu at any time once your main partner learns the moves. You may not be able to battle wild Pokemon, but it doesn't mean you don't battle at all. Along your journey, you will encounter your typical trainers as well as coach trainers. Coach trainers are an optional battle you can partake in, where the trainer will be a little stronger than the other trainers, and as a reward for defeating them, you get money and a unique TM. I've mentioned the Pokeball Plus before. Now I'd like to go a little bit more into detail about it. I know it's not particularly the game, but it plays a role in one of the features that I really enjoy, and that's one-handed gameplay. I normally play in handheld mode, but I usually use my Pokeball Plus to control the game. I love being able to do everything I need from one hand with an ergonomic controller. The Pokeball Plus is a Pokeball-shaped controller with a rumble and a couple of buttons. It can also be used as a new age Pokewalker, like that was used in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. You can load up any Pokemon in your storage or party and take them with you on your travels. While you walk around with them, you can level up and find candies and items. Unlike the Pokewalker, however, there's no screen, but it does have the ability to randomly call out your Pokemon's cry. Once you complete the game, you can repeatedly face the 8 gym leaders, the Elite Four, as well as Blue, Green, and Red. Red can only be faced once you defeat 6 of the new Master Trainers, and then he appears outside of the Indigo Plateau. Master Trainers are trainers that specialize in a single Pokemon and are extremely strong, even stronger than Coach Trainers, and will be found for each species of Pokemon. These games are the first Pokemon games to feature a 2-player co-op feature. To enable the 2-player mode, simply shake your Joy-Con around and your support trainer will appear wearing the same outfit as you, but of the opposite gender. While in this mode, your support character can play the main story and battle other trainers alongside your character. This will make most battles 2-on-1, which makes the game even easier. Now, I've spoken pretty highly of the game so far, but it doesn't mean that they're free from my criticism. There are a few pretty annoying aspects of the game too. For instance, I hate how finicky and unpredictable the throw trajectory is when you use the Joy-Con or Pokeball Plus controller. You can throw your arm perfectly straight and the ball will make a hard right or left. Other times it's spot on. I find much more accuracy in handheld mode since you can just lock onto a Pokemon much easier that way. Now, a lot of people may disagree with me on this, and that's completely fine, but I don't like the friendly rival. The game is already very mellow, so the friendly and goofy rival makes the game kinda dull for me. I always thought Blue made a great rival because of his constant teasing. He always motivated me to try and be one step ahead. Meanwhile, the rival in Pokemon Go is too encouraging and not competitive enough for my taste. I guess we can say, smell you later to the angsty rivals of the past, since I don't think Nintendo has any intention of bringing them back. So as a Pokemon collector, I have every game minus the Sega Pico games and a few of the Pokemon mini games. So of course I bought both versions and the Pokeball Plus accessory. I wanted it partially because it could be used in Pokemon Go, since I found myself playing a lot more recently. But aside from the collector and Pokemon Go aspect, I wanted Mew. If you can't tell, I love Mew. Now unfortunately, Mew is locked behind the Pokeball Plus. If you weren't lucky to get it on Pokemon Go, this is the only way to get it in the game. There is a chance of getting one in a trade, but honestly, it's very unlikely someone's going to give you their Mew. I feel it's pretty crappy to have it locked behind a physical paywall of sorts, since not everyone will be fortunate enough to get the Pokeball Plus. They're likely going to miss out on an awesome Pokemon. Not being able to use the Pro Controller or two separate Joy-Cons at once is really annoying. It makes for a constant fumble over Joy-Cons and the Pokeball Plus accessory in order to navigate certain things. For instance, using the Pokeball Plus, you'll find that you're simply unable to perform some functions that the Joy-Cons can, because the Joy-Con has more buttons, meanwhile the Pokeball Plus just has 2. In the Go Park, you can't zoom out while using the Pokeball Plus because that requires a Y button. Going back to the home menu is also a pain too. Since the right Joy-Con is the only controller with the home button, you have to go back and pair the controller from your options menu just to quit the game. Sure, you can undock it and do it that way, but this is all clunky execution. Missing the Game Corner functionality was a huge blow for me. I know there's laws that would have made the game a different rating in different countries, and given all the loot box and microtransaction scandals, they probably didn't want anything remotely resembling gambling in the game. Instead of killing the function, this would have been an opportune time to make some small mini games playable at the machines, like Pikachu surfing from Pokemon Yellow. Players that beat a high score on certain levels could have obtained a Game Corner prize or Pokemon as a result. No coins needed. On the topic of missing things, I have to mention briefly how much I miss the fishing rod and the bicycle in this game. It was much more rewarding to catch water Pokemon with the fishing rod. The lack of the bicycle just seems so wrong to me too. Sure, you have the running shoes and can later ride larger Pokemon, but it's not the same. It also made Cycling Hill, which is now something different, really weird for me. My last issue with the game isn't much of an issue at all. Honestly, I just wish that there were more clothing options for you and your partner Pokemon. I love that they took this mechanic from Pokemon X and Y, but I wish it was more fleshed out. It would have been cool to get gym leader costumes after you go back and beat them a second time or something. People complained that Pokemon Let's Go was too stripped out. They said that the lack of hold items, ability, and breeding took too much from the games. My response to them is, when in the first gen did we have any of these things? Breeding couldn't exist because of the paradox it would cause for later generation baby Pokemon that came from first generation parents. Hold items and abilities would add a whole other layer of complexity to a game that was purposely made simple. I look at these titles as a way for people to get their feet wet with Pokemon when they may not have played it or have only played Pokemon Go. I feel that this is a way to prep us for the main series game coming within the next year or 2. I don't see Pokemon Go connectivity being so heavily involved, if at all, in the next game. I feel the catching method in Pokemon Go integration was just a way to have a new gimmick for the game. So did Pokemon Let's Go disappoint? Surprisingly, no. While I did have low expectations, it exceeded them, and I actually enjoyed it. I wouldn't have a problem going back and replaying the other version now, and that's much more than I can say for Sun and Moon and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. The world was beautiful and bright, the music was great and nostalgic. I would say if you were disappointed in the last games, I feel you'll find these much more enjoyable despite being much more streamlined. If you're a fan of the original Pokemon Yellow, this game will take you back to when you were a kid in the 90s. It's a great feel-good game. So that was my review of Pokemon Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu. Let me know what you guys thought of the video in the comments, and let me know what you guys thought of the game too. Till next time, guys, take care and train on. Shout out to my Patreon supporters, the SideQuest Gamer, Barclay Crazy, Michael Carter, and Chipper Angeles Negrete. Thank you so much for all your support.